Hey guys, I'm Sunny Galt with Parents on Demand, and we are a podcast network specific to parents and families. We love helping out our members, and sometimes that means educating them on things that could impact their show and how to produce their show the best way possible. And sometimes podcasters get caught up in the legal side of things, so we're doing a series of videos to educate you guys about some of these things that podcasters may face, including the question, should you copyright your podcast? So I'm not an expert on this. So I brought a friend of mine and an expert to talk with us a little bit about this. Gordon Firemark, he is an entertainment media and business lawyer. He is also a podcaster, which is very helpful. His podcast is called Entertainment Law Update. Gordon, thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi, Sunny. It's really great to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so when we talk about copyright, we could talk about this a couple different ways. We could talk about this from the standpoint of using other people's work in our show. We could also talk about this from the standpoint of protecting what's inside of our podcast so other people don't use it without our permission. So for this video, we're going to focus on protecting our show and the content we're creating so other people can't use it. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a copyright and what is the intent? Like, what is it supposed to do?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the second part of that question first because it's the way I think about it. So copyright is the Constitution of the United States, and most other countries have copyright law as well, sets forth the power of Congress to create exclusive rights to authors and inventors. And the idea is to incentivize the creation, but then it's for a limited amount of time, which is then to give us a body of work to build upon down the line in the future. So copyright is this bundle of rights that's been given to authors of original work. Once you fix your work in a tangible form, you have this bundle of rights. And they're exclusive to the author. The right to make copies of the work, the right to distribute those copies, the right to display or perform the work, depending on which kind of work it is, of course, and the right to make derivative works, things that are based on the original work. So all of those rights belong exclusively to the author, who is the owner of the copyright from the outset. And then they can, divide that up and share it with other people and give licenses and permissions and things.
Okay, so let's talk about this from a podcasting perspective. If someone were to get a copyright for their podcast, what in that could or would be protected?
Well, let me start off by saying that it's not an if, it's a when. Everybody gets a copyright in their podcast the moment they press that record button.
Okay.
It's automatic. You don't have to do anything to get a copyright. Just the act of recording, if it's original work, you own a copyright.
Okay. So there's no filing. This is surprising to me. So there's no filing or anything that has to happen for that specific episode. Then.
Yeah. So there is a registration mechanism, and it used to be that you were required to register the work in order to preserve your protection, the rights that you have. Nowadays, you only have to have filed a registration if you plan to go to court and sue somebody for infringement. There are a bunch of good reasons to do it early, though, within 3 months of the first time you publish the episode or the work, because then you can have your attorney's fees paid by the other side if you win, and you don't have to prove actual money damages. You just go in and prove the infringement, and then the court has discretion to award you an amount anywhere from $750 to about $150,000, depending on sort of the egregiousness of the infringement. So the registration mechanism is there, and it's part of the Library of Congress, the United States Copyright Office. So in order to do the registration, it's an online form. You go to copyright.gov and you click on the little e-filing button, which is there. And it's kind of a klutzy website, but if you follow instructions closely and you upload your copy of your work and you describe it properly and identify the owners and things like that, it's a pretty straightforward process to get registered.
Okay. And so do you recommend that podcasters do that? Like, did you do that with your podcast since you're a lawyer? Did you do that before launching your show? Or do you recommend just waiting and fingers crossed, nothing happens and you don't have to go through that process?
This is going to be a situation of a do as I say, not as I do. But then again, I can also write that cease and desist letter on a legal letterhead and
yes,
scare the living daylights out of someone. But fortunately, in 10 years of doing my show, I've never had an issue of infringement that I was worried about. But there is a cost to filing these registrations. It's I think it's about $45. It may have gone up to $50 recently, and You don't want to do that if you're putting out a weekly episode. That's that's a lot of that's $2,500 a year. No, it's more than $2,500 a year. So, doing that every episode doesn't make sense. Fortunately, there's a mechanism in the statute that allows for registration of folios. You could register essentially all of the episodes you do within a particular period of time as, season one or quarter one, season one or whatever, and register the whole bundle as a single registration. And that's a little trickier too, but it's a good idea. And if you do it, say, every 3 months, then you're always getting registered within that 3 months of publication of any given episode. And that preserves your right to your attorney's fees and things like that. So that's what I recommend, is every 3 months, like clockwork, on the first of the third, sixth, and ninth and 12th month. Whatever. That's when you want to file that registration. Just get it done and don't have to think about it again.
I kind of wonder how many people are going to do that, though, right?
Not very many.
Well, yes. Maybe the larger shows or the people that have like tons of people to support them, part of a larger network or something like that. But I'm thinking the everyday podcaster, the people that I talk to on an everyday basis, like that would be amazing if they could do that and if someone would do that for them. But that's probably not going to happen. And I'll, just to be realistic about it.
Well, the good news is the protection exists whether you register or not. And, it's probably not a bad idea to give the copyright notice in your show as well and on your website, saying this episode is copyright 2018 by Gordon Firemark or whatever. And, just putting that notice out there also sort of helps out with the amount of damages you could collect if you end up having a problem. But the good news is, the protection's in place and you still can sue. You can always file it the day before you file your lawsuit. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can wait it out a little bit too, if you need to. I have seen that at the bottom of websites. In fact, I believe we have it on our network website too. It was something that our website designer kind of automatically did, but it was a copyright Parents on Demand network. And so, does that work for covering, so that's on a website. Does that cover podcast stuff?
It sort of does. I mean, you want to put it in the content of the audio of the show if you can, and you just say, hey, this is copyright 2018. Yes.
Okay.
The other thing to be mindful of is that the recording is different from the website, and so the symbol that we use for copyright in a recording is actually a P in a circle, not a C in a circle. And that stands for phonorecord, which tells you how old this law is.
Okay. All right. Very good. Gordon, how can we find out more information about you and connect with you online?
Well, GordonFiremark.com is sort of the central hub for all things Gordon. And on there, you'll find, of course, a link to my law firm website, which is at firemark.com. Also, you'll see that I have an ebook for podcasters called the Podcast Blog and New Media Producers Legal Survival Guide. And you can get that at podcastlawbook.com, and other things available for folks of interest as well. And by the way, just one thing I'll promote is there's a free podcast release available, and we'll talk about that in another episode.
Yes, and I'll make sure to include those links so you guys can just click on it and go straight to it. All right, thanks so much, Gordon.